Finish him! We're about to take it back.
Okay. Yes, guys, Talking Loud podcast. It's always Diesel, dog. And guys, we're back for another episode, and we got a great guest with us today for a dope banger. Lots of you guys grow some fire autos, but where did it all start? What was the first commercially available auto strain out there? Who created it? Well, it's my absolute pleasure to have on the show today, creator of Lowrider, the joint doctor himself, Sasha. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Nice to be here, Matt. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. 100%. Like, I'm just super stoked to have you on. Like I was just telling you off air, like a lot of people that came onto the show either spoke about lowrider genetics, mentioned it, said it was one of the first things they ever grew, period, or it was one of the strains that started their breeding process, and somehow it touched their life in some way. So I'm just super stoked to have you on, man. Thanks a lot for taking the time to come and hang out with us, man. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. Absolutely.
For sure, man. Well, how's everything going? I just like to break the ice and ask how everything is going, where you're chilling at. Where are you at right now?
I'm at my house, my home in Quebec, outside of Montreal.
Awesome.
And in general, yeah, I've been, I've been working in try to get my brand into the Canadian sphere of legal cannabis, and I'm still working on that. But yeah, it's just it's always interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I got you, man. Well, man, I can't wait to break into some of the stuff that we got today, guys. This is a live Q&A. If you guys got any questions, drop them in the chat. We got over 100 people tuned in already, guys. Smash that like, show some love. If you guys aren't hitting the like button, then something's wrong. We need to have absolutely 100 likes on deck already because we got over 100 people tuned in. And of course, we got to shout out the ICANN fam, man. The ICANN fam supporting on Patreon. Everyone in the chat, you guys definitely join up with the ICANN fam. The VIP Bean Club is popping. Over the next couple of days, we got some genetics going out. You guys definitely join up, man. And of course, if you don't want any new genetics, you can just cop some Diesel Dog merch, some Diesel Dog clothing, and support the channel that way. Like I always say, ICANN is not monetized, but you guys' support really helps us out a lot, man. But as I always say, Shasta, thanks so much for coming on. But there's one question I like to ask everyone that comes on to the show, and it's about their name, dude. Like, the joint doctor. It says so much. Like, everyone calls you doc. Like, it's just an awesome name, man. What's the inspiration behind it? Tell me about it, man.
Oh, for sure. Actually, it goes back a long time. I first started using I'll start from the beginning. Actually, I was going up a ski lift with my buddy. It was
okay.
I think I was like in college, and I was rolling a joint. It was a snowstorm, and managed to roll a joint. We were smoking a joint going up the ski lift, and he's smoking. It makes a big run.
Yeah.
And it's like he passes it to me, and somehow I managed to fix the joint, and we end up smoking the whole thing, get up to the top of the hill, and he's like, "Man, you're the joint doctor." So I guess it started out
no matter what.
Yeah, man. It was just like, I guess it's my joint rolling skills that gave me that name initially. And for a little while I was using that as I was dabbling in DJing.
Okay.
So I used that as a DJ name as well as like a pen name when I was writing articles about cannabis. Before I was really, put out anything as far as like seeds. But so the name stuck, and I'm not a real doctor, officially, although my mom is, so that kind of
Sweet.
help.
But everyone still calls you the doc, man. Like I literally think of you as the doc in my head.
Oh yeah, sweet, man.
That is awesome, dude. But everyone always has a different inspiration behind their name, man. And it's crazy cool to find out what's the inspiration behind yours. So like, speaking of that, like, tell us a little bit about yourself before we actually get into all that strain talk and breeding stuff. Like you mentioned that you were on that ski lift. Like how long ago was that? Like when you actually got that name?
Yeah. Okay. That was like in the early 90s, man. So like, yeah, I've been in this like cannabis. I've been a lover of cannabis all my life. I grew up on a small organic farm here in Quebec, like in the 70s, 80s, and so I've had a long, trip, and always been interested in agriculture, and I was lucky enough to be able to make, a career in cannabis in various aspects. And I guess what, the joint doctor, quote unquote, is known for, before I even showed my face, I was just, underground grower and breeder, and managed to put out back in 2003 what is considered to be the first, 100% auto flowering variety called lowrider.
Cool.
So that was sort of my claim to fame initially, and I've been working on auto flowering varieties ever since.
Yeah.
And now have a seed bank still based in Europe called Doctor's Choice, and we provide mainly, original auto flowering genetics, as well as some heirloom regular varieties. So, yeah, I've been working with cannabis all my life, and there's still a lot of work to do. Fortunately.
Absolutely. I love that, man. I love that, you just had that passion for it for such a long time. And just hearing you now, you still say, there's still so much work to do, just because there's always stuff to do. There's always ways to improve and always just make things better and share those beautiful genetics for everyone out there, man. Well, I'm just super stoked to actually hear some more of those stories, man. So guys, smash that like button, hit that like. We got to run up those likes, man. And I'm seeing some beautiful comments in the chat already. I'm seeing people talking about lowriders. They absolutely love it. Seeing people dropping where they're from. Shout out Alexis, Licorice, Trinidad in the house. Guys, drop it in the comments. Let me know where you guys are tuned in from. I'm always interested to find out where you guys are tuned in from. If we got Canada in the house, drop it in the house and let us know. Actually, Sasha, what I wanted to ask you is, about the inspiration behind the strain name now, lowrider. What was the inspiration behind that name? Because I actually heard that you came up with that name while you were sitting down on the toilet, man, having a good old deuce. Is that absolutely true, or is that false?
Oh, you heard that story, man? That's absolutely true. Hey, I brought some props to show you today, actually, because I found the original magazine. That I was reading at the time. Okay, so I've got it here for you.
Wow.
Okay, can you see that?
Oh my God.
That's the first edition of Lowrider magazine, 1977.
1977. That's bro. You need to frame that shit.
This was the inspiration behind it all, man.
Wow, man.
Yeah, because lowrider, genetically had some Mexican roots.
Yeah,
and it's it's low profile.
Yeah,
in a manner of speaking. So I thought it fit perfectly. Only thing is, we changed it. Buddy and I came up with the idea of using a Y instead of the I, just to make it searchable or just different.
Yeah,
and
that's a great point, man. That searchability is key. But also, dude, what I've come to notice is that you have the greatest ideas while you're sitting down on the throne. Why is that? Either when you're sitting down in the toilet or while you're having a shower. That's when you have the best ideas. So thanks to you for taking that deuce that day, man.
Well, thanks for asking, man. That's a true story, man. Look, I often leave out the part about sitting on the toilet, but there you go.
I love that, man. That's why I'm so stoked to have you on, man. We can get some of these stories out, and I'm just really excited, man. So thanks a lot for that. But also, I think I read somewhere that you were growing for like such a long time, dude, like a really long time, and you actually had a few small plants like in your dorm room, like back in the days. So tell us a little bit about that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I moved off the farm to go to college in Vermont. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was living in a dorm, and First, so I didn't have I didn't have anywhere to grow, and I've been growing for a couple of years already, and
Yeah.
I'd like to find a supply of my own.
Yeah.
It wasn't so easy to find at first because I like to chill out with a joint here and there.
Yeah.
So it was like
That's why they call you
I
the
ended
joint
up
doctor, right?
exactly. So I mean, I tried to find places to grow. I found a place on campus actually in this like thicket, this
Yeah.
like really thick bush. And in the summer, I'd leave some plants there. In the spring, come back in the fall, and I might
Yeah.
have a little plant or something. And in the winter, well, in my dorm room, I had a little light, and I would grow a couple plants just behind my sound system. You know what I mean? Just nothing nothing came out of it that it was no kind of quantities were coming out of that little space. But it was nice to have a few plants. I had a buddy who would just like come over and pick a few leaves off of it when he was really jonesing, and come and we'd smoke a joint and study together.
Yeah, doing high function stuff. But man,
Yeah, so
I can't imagine that it was absolutely legal. So I'm 100% sure almost that you're doing this undercover. So how many plants are we talking, man?
just a couple, man.
Just a few.
Yeah, it was in a dorm room. You're
You ain't
fairly
got much space,
removed.
man.
You don't have much space, but at the same time, you're a little bit protected from the
Yeah,
law, and that you're on
true.
campus, and if you don't fuck around and make too many mistakes,
Yeah.
or just talk a lot, nobody nobody noticed
Yeah,
really.
unless someone rats on you.
Exactly.
That's why you
No, it
can't tell
wasn't an
certain
issue.
people.
There's a lot of there's worse things going on campus.
For sure.
So yeah.
Wow. That is crazy, man. So I actually remember I did something similar and I was just like so scared of doing it. Like I was just, and I was out in the UK and it was like completely prohibition land. And I ended up growing a male plant. So after all my hard work and effort, it turned out to be a male. I didn't even get any flower. So
Oh,
again, props to you and pushing through and doing it.
yeah. So you didn't end up smoking the male plant, right? Or
No,
did
I
you
didn't
try?
end up smoking it. Me and my homie just ended up chopping it down and getting rid of it. Like
Yeah,
we didn't have any use for it at that point.
yeah. That's too bad.
Yeah, now like, and now we're transitioning a little bit from that dorm room because like a little bit of time passes, you get a little bit older, and you and your homies are probably smoking out and blazing up and stuff. And I think I seen that your friend's mom was attempting to grow some flower on a windowsill, right, from seeds, and I think you gave her those seeds actually. And you thought, man, maybe I should grow like some windowsills, maybe some windowsill weeds, something that's perfect to grow like on balconies, windowsills, or small apartments. So was that like the inspiration for Lowrider? Like, tell us a little bit about that, man.
Yeah, that was part of it, man. Like, I guess I was always, after moving out and living in a dorm room, I was always looking for plants that were easy, just naturally looking for plants that were easy to hide. I
Yeah.
wanted plants that didn't grow too tall. And so it was really from pretty early on, I was like trying to look for, there was a few varieties out there that were supposed to be shorter or fast flowering. I was playing around with those kind of varieties. And
Yeah.
living in apartments, I had limited resources and space, and
True.
it stayed like that for a while. It was basically, I had to be careful. I
Yeah.
was, living with my wife, starting a family, and it became necessary to like find better places to grow, and that involved, partners, bringing in partners to grow with me, for me.
Yeah.
And so that was, it was all underground. And at the time, um, you know there were, it was a little different than today. It was obviously it wasn't legal,
Yeah.
strictly speaking, but seeds were in a way tolerated, in like there was a healthy like gray market of seeds
Yeah.
even in Canada. And so in the beginning, I didn't really have any distribution, but I could go to a grow shop, and they sort of probably knew who I was. I'd
Dope.
get to know them,
Yeah.
and I would trade seeds for grow equipment, or straight up, uh,
Dope.
deliver seeds. And I developed relationships with a few grow shops here and there, and then I started to get interest from international, like from
Yeah.
Holland, from the UK. At
Wow.
first, a shop, there's just a couple of shops
Yeah.
who happened to sell seed, and there weren't very many back then. So
Wow.
then I started to get like guys from Russia tracking me down and like wanting to wholesale it over there, and it was like, holy shit, this is like, bigger than I can. The potential is, it just blew up, and I was really active back then online.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was like overgrow.com, and I
True.
had my own forum.
OGs would remember that, man. OGs would remember that for sure.
Oh yeah, it was pretty amazing. There was a section just on autos, so it was like a think tank where all these breeders from everywhere and growers would share their thoughts, and
Yeah.
we'd learn together,
Yeah.
So, and of course that took a lot of my time, and after luckily sooner than later, Canada started to legalize medical. Well, before that, I should say, I was like, my day job was also with cannabis. I was working out west. I lived in Regina, Saskatchewan for a while, running a hemp company. So I was like, we were growing seeds and selling seeds, contracting seeds with farmer, and getting like nutritional oil pressed from seeds. And we brought in this variety from Finland that also happened to be a short variety, a bit of an auto flowering hemp variety, if you will. And so that was a whole other chapter, like what I did to stay safe. I still worked with cannabis, but at that point hadn't really come out as, here I am, the joint doctor.
Yeah.
When I was able to get a designated medical permit, late 2000s it started, where I started to be able to like feel a little safer and grow straight at home. I built myself a greenhouse and started to do my own research and grow in there.
Yeah.
Well,
man, that is a crazy interesting story, man. Like, and the beautiful thing is, like, you went for something that you just believed in. You believed in it, and even though it took a little while for you to come out as the joint doctor, you were persevering behind the scenes for so long and trudging on. And that's sort of ties into what I literally just seen someone drop in the chat. And someone says, you're a cannabis legend. Auto flowers have changed the game, and much thanks for your hard work. So shout out to Jimmy Anderson, because I fully agree and endorse that, man. So thank you, Sasha. Like, honestly.
Thanks, Jimmy, man. I appreciate that. Really do.
Most definitely,
that's
man.
amazing. That's part of the best part of what I do is, like, as a grower, you work, you do a little bit every day, you nurture your plants. But when I get feedback from growers and people who are experienced my varieties, or especially back in the day, and we're part of that whole movement to recognize a whole new type of plant, and they just say, hey, thanks, or I was there, or it's super meaningful. It's really awesome, and it's the best part of the job. You know what I mean?
That is awesome, man. And like, shout out to everyone in the chat right now. Even Lloyd says he's just token on some lowrider now, so that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
That's amazing, man.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Enjoy.
And also I just seen, Brandon says, thanks to all the service members in the chat. Of course, shout out to everyone, anyone who's in here who's a vet, shout out to everyone as well. But I just wanted to say one thing, DB420, nice name, by the way, mouthful, but I love it. Says he's been growing cannabis for 5 years, and this is first time growing autoflower fem seeds, right? So that actually sort of got me wondering, like the lowrider, it actually was a 3-way cross, and it's over 10 years in the making, right? Or is it longer than that?
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't like 10 years constantly, right?
Okay.
It was like I was moving around and bringing the seeds with me. I had a whole bunch of seeds.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize the full potential of these, like, lowriders' ancestors. They were just part of a list of seeds that I was playing around with.
Okay.
I had crossed a few different clones I had. They were the best clones I had at the time, with this ruderalis-like plant called Mexican Rudy. And a friend of mine had Antonio. He was one of my mentors. He was this like kind of like barefoot hippie intellectual from Mexico, with big
Oh,
hair, and he was like a
I like
Rasta
that.
to me. You know what I mean?
Shout out to that man.
Yes, sir. And yeah, if not for Antonio, he had this, Mexican Rudy, which you could. I went over to his place one time in July when nobody had anything to smoke that year. It was very dry.
Yeah.
But Antonio had some plants that were maturing, or they were already mature. Actually, he just he let them die off and dry on the stem. He just went out to the back of his house and picked some. It was this like dwarf plant, very small plant.
Yeah.
Had a nice taste. Not much of a high though. It was like it was. Nobody complained at the time because it was like we didn't have anything, but it's like
subtle, tasty sort of girl.
Yeah, but it's kind of a curiosity. So I ended up crossing that with, a couple things like the Northern Lights I had at the time, mainly.
Yeah.
And that thing was, I just went into my collection for a time, and also, eventually ended up testing them out, and they weren't what you'd call auto flowering yet, because like the first generation cross, it's not really auto flowering. So it didn't really, what got my attention really was its compact, look. And it was quick, but it wasn't auto flowering.
Yeah.
So I ended up crossing that with several different clones, like the Northern Lights ruderalis. I crossed that with things like I had a Hawaiian plant. I also had a Williams Wonder, which is
I was just about to say, I think I heard about the Williams Wonder.
Right, and those seeds, right? So that was the second generation. Those are the seeds that actually where things went down. Like we had that eureka moment in my buddy Dave's basement. Okay, Dave Strange. He's actually an amazing cannabis photographer and writer. And still my friend. So we're growing in his basement, and we're just have these seedlings under 24 hours of light, and they're like fluorescents, right?
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of different plants. I had a whole tray of these, what we called, it didn't have a name. It was Williams Wonder Northern Lights ruderalis, right?
Okay.
After that, we started to call it Willie's Automatic. But see, what we saw is these three little male plants started to sprout flowers at like just over 2 weeks age. So they're supposed to be seedlings under 24 hours, and they're flowering. Like they were just weird. I guess probably a lot of growers, it's probably happened before to people, and you just like the runts, you throw them out, right? Well, we thought, wow, this is cool. So we kept those, that 25% of the population, and we just kept those.
Yeah.
And we ended up crossing them together, and what we got then was 100% autoflowering, because that brought back the recessive trait or gene.
Yeah.
That is autoflowering. So we started to understand it better. And we looked at it back then. It was like, this is great. The potential is great because it's very small. It's easy to grow. It's easy to hide. And we saw it as a miniature plant. We didn't realize how big you could actually grow autos back then, because we're using small pots, right?
Yeah.
And
true.
Typically would get an ounce or two per plant, still in a closet situation. So
if we're being real, a lot of people back then, like you said, were growing, in small spaces. A lot of people are hiding their grows, trying to, and especially if you're growing indoors, and anyone comes over, you just want to have it in a small space. So, smaller spaces were really what people were trying to grow in. Not everyone had a whole house to dedicate, or, could go and guerrilla grow up in the bushes somewhere. So I think that what you guys were doing was really hitting that home grower, and giving them an opportunity to find something by coming out with this, purposefully kept small strain. But it's beautiful to see that a lot of the auto genetics have gotten like a lot bigger over the years. But back when you guys were doing it, were they always smaller plants? Because I think I read somewhere that you also you had a thing for like hunting for some of those mutant dwarf smaller plants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of went both ways with that. See how small you could actually get them to be. If you
Okay.
just bred the super small ones together.
Yeah.
And well, the answer is just as small as you want. I mean, it can be tiny little plants, one joint plants, right? That's
Yeah.
fun, but I realized that there's no point in like it's no point in spending my time playing with mutants and lower quality genes and to produce sort of novelties when actually the job was to produce bigger autos. That was more interesting.
Yeah.
Seemed at
I got
first
you.
like if we inject more sativa genes into it, it would delay flowering and it would make flowering longer, so you could end up with bigger
Yeah.
autos. It's kind of like jumbo shrimp. What it took a little while to realize that, hey, the more you give these plants, the bigger they can get. If you grow these plants in like hydroponic and aeroponics,
Yeah.
and you really give them what they need, geez, there's almost no limit. I mean, people are getting ridiculous
Fuck
yields,
me.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like everything you can give. But and also one of the important things about autos is that yeah, they're great for closets because not only are they small, but you don't have to really have a separate room or separate timer, when you're flowering. So what you
Yes.
can do is you can grow a few plants.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, you can plant more, right? And so you can have seedlings and half-done plants and plants that are mature all in the same closet. Just keep it on 18 hours the whole
Yeah.
year,
And the
So
beautiful thing as well, now that you mentioned that, is that you can literally just run a perpetual harvest setup system. You can be constantly harvesting plants. You could never run out of weed. And that way you're living the good life. You're weed rich. As my homies Hagen says, man, you're weed rich. So
yes,
I think that's
exactly.
dope.
Yeah, that's exactly the idea. Being self-sufficient, and it really is a good thing for the home growers, and generated a lot of interest in growing and in seeds. If you look around now, there's so many people. It's an introduction to farming
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Facts.
Even urban kids who are just growing their first plant.
Facts.
These this is something that you can do yourself. It empowers you just to show it's not rocket science.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
easy. And what I've actually just seen in the chat, and I think you just mentioned it, so I just wanted to touch on it real quick. The real black hippie says, I do grow autos in DWC, and he grows monsters, man. And a lot of people are a little bit afraid to grow autos in DWC, but you mentioned it just now. So, what would you say to anyone who's growing autos in DWC? Because autos, they can be a little bit finicky when it comes to growing. You want to make sure you give it everything it needs. Is there any difference when it comes to DWC and soil?
Well, the first of all, deep water culture is a little bit out of my comfort zone because I've always been more of an organic farmer.
I feel you.
Um,
Same, to
you
be
know,
honest.
so what I would say is like it really is variety dependent. You have to pay attention to the signs because obviously like and growing any variety things can go wrong, and different plants have different tolerances in terms of the nutrients that they like. So
Yeah.
really get to know your plant, see how it reacts.
Yeah.
As far as there's really a lot of ways to skin a goat, right?
Yeah.
There's
True.
many ways to getting good results, good yields. Personally, I find a lot of people over fertilize, but that's just my personal preference in taste. Like I'm used to smoking organic weed that, flushing is you don't even say flushing because it's the plant flushes itself naturally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you end up with a smoke that's good to the last puff. So I must say that I'm sensitive to like over fertilization. You can
Okay.
get great results, but especially towards the end, it's much better to back off. And the coloring, the color changes that you'll see in the plant will tell you that you're doing the right thing. Let the plant's natural the natural cycle kick in to where it's starting to die off a little bit,
Yeah.
technically.
I got you.
Um, you know, anyway, just don't no need to pump it all the way till the end.
Yeah, those are some great points, great words of wisdom, guys. So, guys, smash the like button for that. Let's see how many likes we can get. Like I keep saying, we got over 200 people tuned in, so we definitely need to have at least 200 likes already. And yeah, man, Sasha's dropping some great knowledge when it comes to the autoflowers. And as he said, there's no one way to grow, no one way to skin a cat or skin a goat or whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of different ways you guys can grow. And as a Supreme Love says, he learned a heck of a lot from this channel as a new grower, and he wanted to say thank you for sharing the knowledge. And that's definitely what we're here to do. We're here to help you guys out as much as we can. But Sasha, there's a question that came in the chat, and I just wanted to ask you to drop this one on you, man. It's OG Lieutenant Blazer says, taking the time to make a super soil for autos, is it worth it, or is it better off to just run in synthetics?
Well, yeah, you already know where I'm at on this. Basically, running synthetics is not where I'm at.
Yeah.
A lot of my colleagues, that's all they do, and that's fine. I have nothing against that. And the thing is, yeah, taking the time to build a super soil is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
For me, but it doesn't have to be overly complicated, right? Okay, because the life cycle of your autos is fairly short. So
exactly,
keep it fairly simple, stupid. You don't need to
keep that
really,
kiss.
You start with a good soil, obviously, and superior compost or organic nutrients. I prefer to mix them into my grow mix right at the beginning. And so my only, the fertilization I do might be once a week, supplementary, things like fish fertilizer and seaweed, right? So that's, and of course, if you're growing outdoor, it's another story. If you're growing in your garden or your greenhouse and you're using the soil, then but anything you can do, build that soil is you're going to reap the rewards, continuously, and it's just going to get better and better because you have to give back.
For sure. And I'm seeing a lot of other questions coming in. I'm going to try to answer all you guys' questions, get as many as we can answered. But guys, like I keep saying, show some love. Hit that like. Mama Kush is in the house. I think Mama Kush is out in Canada as well. So big ups to her. We also got Lloyd, and Lloyd is saying, let me tell you, brother, my son has massive seizures. I only gave him lowrider and it works instantly. 45 minutes without. And that is just beautiful to hear, man. That is like truly amazing. And it's great to hear that. What do you think, Sasha?
Well, I think that's really great news for your son. That's incredible. I'd like to know more. I'd definitely and understanding why this variety in particular is suitable for you. And I've heard a lot of reports to that effect.
Wow.
And as to why it works. My theory is just that it's got a wide spectrum of cannabinoids. It just might be the ticket in this particular case, but it's still a mystery. There's still a lot of mysteries in this plant, but I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I think that's truly amazing to hear, man. And I really want to get into the Know Your Bud segment. But before we do, I just want to take a couple more questions. Shout out to Mrs. K's Garden. She's always in the chat. And this one is a pretty straightforward one, I would think. But there's a lot of opinions around it, which makes it a little bit more complicated. So what size and pot type do you recommend for growing autos? Like smaller plastic pots, bigger fabric pots? What's like the best option?
Okay, well, indoors and outdoors, it might be a little different. Just because... if you're outdoors, you might have to deal with more significant temperature changes and heat waves and whatnot. And in greenhouse, same thing.
Gotcha.
So in that case, definitely at least 5 gallons, 5 to 10 gallons.
Okay.
Because you have a more stable environment for your plant, and it's not going to be come root bound in any way.
Yeah.
And also the sun can really beat down on that pot. And, so bigger, the more stable environment it is. Indoors, you can get good results with 3-gallon pots. I would go with 5, depending on the variety, how much space you have, right?
Yeah, I got you. And that makes a lot of sense, man. And I had good results with that. So shout out to you for dropping that knowledge. And the only other one I wanted to touch on real quick was shout out to Victor Ramirez, my homie Victor, grown with the vet, my man. But he says, can autoflowers survive more higher or lower temperatures than regular photoperiod plants? So in other words, are they a little bit more hardy than, your typical photoperiods?
Yes, typically they can be more tolerant to cold temperatures.
Because they came from like that ruderalis gene, and those really originated in those harsh conditions and climates and all sorts of crazy places, right?
True, but I got to tell you, the autos that you're gonna obtain today are a far cry from wild ruderalis, and they've only got
Wow.
a very small proportion of that. So it's still,
Okay.
again, variety dependent, and colder
Exactly.
temperatures, what they can do is definitely slow down. Like if normally, if a plant, say, is going to be ready in 60 days, typically
Yeah.
in auto from seed. I mean, if you start it off in April in really cold weather, that thing's going to just delay. So
True.
that's going to prolong its life.
Yeah.
And cold temps will also, reduce yields.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if you really growing in a heat wave and it's too hot in your environment, they'll finish quicker.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's so there you're at. In general, with the autos, whatever you do is going to affect the final outcome. Like if you delay and this or that, or let them get root bound, or they don't get a good start, it's really going to affect your bottom line at the end.
Yeah.
So can they survive? Sure. They might stay quite small.
Yeah.
But say you want to grow a crop in the springtime for really early harvest,
Yeah.
uncover them for flowering and in May or something. It's possible, but you won't get as good results as in the summer.
Yeah, I got you. That makes a lot of sense, man. So shout out to that because, like you said, they will grow, but you may not get the optimized yield, fully optimized everything from the plant, pretty much. And that's sort of what you're aiming for in those situations. You really want to hit that, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
I got to just add in there that
yeah,
there are places that say we're in northern latitudes, really far north, or a high altitude as well. Short places with short seasons,
yeah.
you might not even have any other options with growing autos, because autos have opened up new places where it's possible to grow, say in
So true.
Scandinavia.
So
So
friggin' true.
yeah,
Man, that is crazy. I didn't even think of that, dude. That is absolutely true because a lot of people, and they just don't have the facilities to, as you said, switch that light cycle. But being able to do it now, that opens up a realm of possibilities. That is so true. I didn't even think of that, but it's like staring at me in my face. Anyway, now what I did want to touch on, man, is that Know Your Bud segment. And Sasha, we have you on the Know Your Bud segment. I'm super stoked, but you probably don't even know what it is. So let me break it down. The Know Your Bud segment is pretty much a segment that I like to call the Know Your Bud segment because everyone that comes onto the show, I like to say is my bud. And I like to find out what you do with your buds, whether you're growing it, smoking it. I just like to find out more about you, man. And it's a great way for everyone in the chat to find out more about you as well. So all I'm gonna do is throw out a couple random questions at you, and you just tell me what's your preference and why. It's almost like multiple choice back in the day when you were in school. You had to pick
right
A,
on.
B, or C, that sort of thing.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. All righty, man. Let's get it, man. Okay. Well, when it comes to germination, what's your preference? If you're just popping a few beans at home, what you gonna do? Are you gonna go straight into the soil? Are you grabbing that paper towel, or are you gonna go for a glass of water? What are you gonna go for?
Right. If I'm just popping a few beans, I'm gonna put them in the I'm gonna wrap them up in a little paper towel and put them in water with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide,
Yeah.
and put them seal that with plastic and put it on top of my fridge for a day.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The method works.
Yeah. Now, if I'm growing but normally if I'm growing like a significant crop, where it's a commercial crop or whatever that we're starting,
Yeah.
definitely I start straight in 2.5 inch containers
Okay.
most of the time, straight into the dirt.
Yeah.
Moisten the dirt, pack it down about a centimeter, and 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 that's it. Like simpler, the simpler the better. Good results, good temperature. Also, you want like keep them inside the house. For example, is just like they don't even need light for the first couple of days. But I have good results. A lot of my strains, a lot of autos are really quick to start, like especially fresh seeds. I can get them to germinate in 1 day or merge in 2.
Proper. Yeah, that's what's up, guys. And I'm seeing some people are actually asking in the chat, where can they get your genetics and stuff like that. And hang tight, guys. We may be able to get a little bit of a giveaway going. I don't know. Maybe Sasha's feeling nice, but let's just keep on going with the Know Your Bud segment, man. So the next question, though, is fems or regs? What's your preference? Do you prefer the feminized or the regulars?
Wow, that's
It's a tough one.
It's a tough question.
It's
Man.
a toughie.
Sure. It's a tough question. Yeah, as a breeder though, definitely prefer those regular seeds. That's what you want to work with, right?
Yeah.
But fems are so much more just easy.
Yeah.
It's a big debate. It's a strange thing. It's like, are males actually disappearing from the cannabis population? Is the future of cannabis only female? It's very possible, because now and even humans, like, think about us. Are we, feminization?
Are we just
it's
changing
a possibility.
completely?
Maybe we could just get rid of guys if guys are the problem.
Yeah, get rid of us all, man. We're the damn problem.
Yeah, because we're just there, males. I'm talking about biologically.
Yeah.
We're just there for that moment to reproduction.
That magical moment that makes everything special.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love this.
An interesting subject for sure.
Yeah. Now another controversial one though, Sasha, is dry trim or wet trim. What's your preference when it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, as with everything else, I like to keep it simple. I like to just trim the fan leaves off.
Yeah.
Wet, and then just dry hang. And then trim obviously before they're like bone dry. But yeah, let them dry before trimming, and that's best results for me. And also, your trim is still good for making hash and whatnot. Whereas it's still possible if you're doing wet. You can get less veal. There's problems with that, but yeah, personal preference. Definitely just old fashioned, right?
Yeah, and if it, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If that what works, it's what works, man. But the next one, this one is a little bit more subjective though, because when it actually comes to enjoying your flower, right? So would you grab a bong or you go in for that joint?
I'm definitely going for that joint.
The joint doctor. He's not the bong doctor, guys. Fixing broken bongs, fixing broken joints.
Yeah, no, definitely a joint, man. Definitely a joint, man. Although when I was in the college, we were talking about earlier, I got introduced to the bong, right? Everybody smoked bongs down there. And, pulling tubes and different tradition. But I guess, here in Quebec is all about the joints,
I'm a joint guy myself, man. Honestly. But if you ain't got no joint, right? You ain't got no joint, you ain't got no bong, right? But you do got an old Pepsi can, right? And you can make something out of that. Or you got like a empty water bottle and you can make a gravity bong. What you gonna do? Are you going for the gravity bong with a water bottle, or are you going for the aluminum can?
Oh, definitely the gravity bottle. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a pleasure in smoking a bong, hearing those bubbles, bubble up. And
and not tarnishing your lung with aluminum.
Word up, yeah, for sure. Aluminum and plastic coatings, dude. Yeah, thank you.
Not at all. Okay. Now edibles or vapes? What's your preference with those?
They're both good. The question of vapes are super handy for a lot of people who can't be bothered to roll joints,
convenient.
whatever. Convenient. Not necessarily for me. I'll roll a joint in less than a minute. You know what I mean? It's not a problem. But actually, I like the buzz from edibles once in a while. it really is something a little more psychedelic, and it gets me laughing, or just like it's memorable. It's more of an intense experience that is a little different, but it's like, oh yeah, I can, I can handle this. I can handle this.
I can do this.
It's a journey, I can do
Yeah.
this, and because as a stoner, I've come to like trust myself and not, just trust my ability to deal with shits, deal with situations with my wits, even though I may be a stoner, what I mean?
Yeah, but we're ingenious stoners. And
Exactly.
necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of smart stoners out there.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're super stoned, right? And you walk into the kitchen, dude, and you're gonna grab something to eat. You're grabbing some munchies. Are you going for that salty snack or that sweet snack? The chocolate or the chips? What you grabbing?
Oh wow. I'm definitely going for the salty snacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know
Wow.
I just thought of you as a sweet guy. I don't know.
I may have been once, but man, my teeth. I'm getting old. My teeth paid the price. It hurts my teeth when I eat fucking chocolate.
I gotta be careful with that, dude, because I eat so much chocolates and sweets and bullshit like that, man. It's not good.
Well, to each their own,
Yeah. Okay. Now you got one option, right? Tomorrow is you just smoked your last joint, right? Today's the last day that you can smoke. Tomorrow you can only smoke once, right? Are you gonna wake and bake, or are you gonna do a nightcap?
Nightcap, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, that
If
end of the
if I've
day
only
smoke.
got one joint,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
You'll get a productive day out of it,
True.
and then reward yourself.
Yeah.
Makes sense,
Make
right?
the best out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I should do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I got you. No,
Although
but that's a good
if
shout
I'm
though.
feeling, yeah. Although chances are I might need that in the morning. To be honest with you, just
That's the thing though. There ain't nothing better than just blazing up in the morning. That wake and bake hits different, man.
yeah, exactly.
It's a
And it's
tough
also
one.
time for it's a ritual. It's a meditation. Time
Yeah.
to and it's good to know where you're going, know what you're doing with your day before you
Yeah.
smoke that first joint. But apart from that, I'm lucky enough to be able to enjoy that. Working in cannabis industry, I don't really have it's not something to be
True.
that I stay hidden or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But okay, now this is the last one, man. And this is a pretty dope one that I always get some crazy answers out of, man. So you're sitting down right here. You're talking to me on this call right now, man. And 20-year-old you busts through that door and he looks at you and he says, yo, I'm challenging you to a smoke off right now. Who's going to win? You think you're winning right now, or is 20-year-old you going to win? Who's out smoking who?
Well, let me think about that. Yeah, I think the 20-year-old me would smoke me under the table. Yes, and back then, yeah, I don't roll the joints as big as we all used to. Like
It got a little bit smaller over time.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I like to
But the
manage
weed got
my
harder
buzz.
though.
Weed got stronger too.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. So they balance it out. Like even if people say they smoke less over time, they're like, "Oh, the shit that I'm smoking now, man. 20-year-old me wasn't smoking nothing like that."
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it's possible. Although I must say, even back in the day, back in the 90s, man, there was some really good strains. It wasn't the rule, but over here in the townships and in Vermont, there was some weed. It wasn't like mostly not known by brand names or like variety names back then. It was mostly like where it came from, like Kootenai Green, from or Vermont Green, or there was just areas that were known to produce good weed.
That is so true. Even when I was living out in the Caribbean, because I lived in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago for quite some time, growing up, like you would hear of Jam, and Jam is from Jamaica. We would have Vinci's from St. Vincent. You have Colo, that's from Colombia, and that's literally what I grew up on, those strains. And they were from those countries that are close to us. They get it shipped in or whatever, but we literally called it by its name, by the country it came from. Vinci, Colo, Jam. Interesting.
It's interesting that those days are a little bit gone, because that's before like they got invaded. I'm not invaded, but before people were bringing in seeds, too many different varieties. Right now, like say in the Caribbean, like there's they're interested in all the same strains that everyone else is, and so they're growing these new strains, but a lot of the old you know the old land races have been lost, because nobody's clones down there, right? It is from seed every year. So
it's so true.
yeah,
And
it's there's good and bad side to that, right?
yeah, and that's just pretty dope. But honestly, like I think we had a great Know Your Bud segment, and I was I was really stoked to hear some of your answers and your responses, man. And it's always pretty interesting to hear how different everyone is, right? That's why the Know Your Bud segment, I'm really always excited to hear what people got to say, because no one is the
Okay.
same. No one
Yeah,
likes the
yeah.
same things.
No, it's a good way to know someone, right? Just like
Yeah, for sure.
exactly. Yeah, no, great.
Well, guys, hit that like button. Guys, smash that like. We got over 250 people tuned in. I'm sure we got to be having 250 likes, man. And we had a great episode with Sasha. I think we touched on a lot of great different things, especially when it comes to, the stories behind the lowrider, which paved the way for so many genetics nowadays. But before we actually close off, Sasha, for everyone who wants to get in touch with you guys, find out what you guys got going on, maybe cop some of those lowrider genetics, where can they do that, dude?
Absolutely. We still sell the original lowrider, and it's as well as a lot of the new strains, auto flowering, hybrids, fast strains, and it's all at doctorschoice.farm. So I check that out. We have a program as well where we could follow up and help our growers and up and coming breeders, and who knows, you might be come up with a strain that we'll be interested in. So doctorschoice.farm, and we're at a lot of the cannabis shows in Europe.
Yeah.
So
And speaking of cannabis shows, were actually out at the Autoflower Cup 2023. And before we close off, I think you took home a trophy out there, bro. So tell us a little bit about that. Congratulations on behalf of everyone, man. And I think that's just the perfect way to round things off, man. So just tell us a little bit about that experience, dude.
absolutely, man, it was my first time actually judging a major competition, right? And I wasn't going there to participate. I was going there as they called me a celebrity judge. So this was fun. It was like
Big ups,
we
my
had to trade.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was like we got I think it was over 30 strains, and because I don't live in Spain, and I was only there for a few days. Basically, had 2 days to try 30 strains plus with my man Aziz. And so it was like
30
intense.
strains. That sounds like a crazy challenge.
Man, it was just like basically lighting up a joint, or
Yeah.
looking at the bud, rolling up a joint, taking a couple puffs, passing it to my buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think? What do you think? Take another puff. Is it worth smoking? Should we keep smoking? Nah. All right. Give it a 8, 9 for taste, this and that. It had to be so quick. And so judging was a trip. It was a lot of fun. Ended up, I was like, can I handle all this weed? Like, I've never smoked so many joints in one day.
Yeah.
But man, I felt great. I was just like, I was over the moon with the whole experience. And they were like, there were some interviews after pushing cameras on my face. I'm like, dude, I'm like so
I'm
high
too
right
stoned
now,
for this
but
right now.
okay, we can
I'm
do
way
this.
too high for this right
Yeah,
now.
but I realized, hey, man, I can do this,
Yeah.
And but what happened was a friend of ours who lives over there, grows over there for a cannabis club. He grew some of my strains without letting me know, and entered them into the competition. So I'm tasting strains, and I didn't. You don't know which is what or from who. It's just numbers, right? They're just strictly numbers. You're gonna fill out a form, so it's very fair. It's a very serious and real competition, right? I was impressed, and I find out later that we're in the competition. Like my buddy, whose name is Sasha, actually as well. He
Sasha
entered
squared.
Doctor's Choice #1 and ended up winning second place in the auto sativa category. So I was like, a lot of people were like, "Wait, how can you be a judge? How can you be a judge and a competitor?" Well, there you go. That's how I didn't even know, but that was really nice taking home a trophy, and look forward to the next time, man. And anyone who want to go, definitely, check it out at Spanibus. It's during the Spanibus time, which I think it's in March this year. I'm gonna do it again. Yeah,
that is so cool, man. Like, respect to you, and that goes to show, like, your strains have not just been touching lives of many people and paved the way for so many different genetics nowadays, but also it's just still banging, man. It's just straight up still fucking banging, dude. What we talking about, bro?
Oh yeah, it's not over, man.
It's far from over. We just getting started, bro.
Exactly. This is an amazing trip we're on, and wow, it's there's still a lot more to discover, a lot of good strains to put out there, and man, thanks for having me, and respects to all the ICANN fam out there.
Hell yeah. Big ups, man. Shout out to everyone in the chat right now, the ICANN fam show, and love everyone supporting on Patreon. Thanks to everyone tuned in right now. Much love, man. And thank you, Sasha, for coming on, for taking the time to hang out with us, man. All the stories that we heard were crazy, crazy, awesome stories. Just as Mama Kush says, legend. And, there are just so many great things that we were able to share today when it came to not just the stories of the autos, but even answering people's questions when it came to how they can improve their own auto grows at home. So thank you so much, Sasha. Really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, brother.
Really appreciate it, man. I hope I could help, and I really appreciate your questions, man. So that was really great. Thanks a lot, Matt.
My pleasure, man. Well, thank you so much. Take care, guys. Smash that like button on the way out. Let's see how many likes we can get. Run them up and stick around, because you guys, we just hit 50K, so we're going to have a super giveaway soon, and we will stay tuned for those details. But most importantly, guys, stay high and stay motherfucking fly, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Finish him.